My name is Augustyn. As Karl said, I represent Pracownia. We are a small Polish NGO, but the oldest one. You may know us from the campaign on Białowieża Forest. We've been involved in this campaign longer than I'm alive, actually. So yeah, it's a pretty long campaign. I'm focused on bioenergy. This is my focus in our organization, but I also am the one that is responsible for the EU policies, hence my involvement also in the forest monitoring law. But because of my background, it's a big law. Yeah, there are many indicators. It covers many different aspects. So I will focus, because of my background, on the things relevant for the bioenergy. I will give a short overview of the law, but I will, I will focus on the data that we hope we will have that will help us in understanding the impact of bioenergy on our forests, especially on carbon fluxes, and how this data can help us to plan better. All right. I just want to say at the very beginning that I really wish that the two colleagues that spoke before me were responsible for drafting the law and then implementing it. Yeah, really amazing job in Sweden with doing the monitoring and amazing research, like showing where the indicators should go. Unfortunately, what I will show here, the overview of the law, doesn't go so deep. I hope it did, but still I think this law will be an important legislation that will help us to reconcile a little bit the different targets that we have on forests that were introduced recently. Okay, our organization, the title. Is it full screen? It's not full screen, no? Can I make it full screen? Okay, never mind, I think. Full screen enough, okay. Okay, never mind. Just setting a little bit the scene. We've seen it already a couple of times, many presentations, but why is it important to speak about the forests in the context of the climate biodiversity legislation? Forests are basically the nexus of the climate and biodiversity policies of the European Union and of the targets that we have. They are the most widespread natural ecosystem. 40% of the area of the EU is covered with forests, and they constitute half of the protected Natura 2000 habitats. They are also the most important element of the LULUCF sink, carbon sink. If it hadn't been for forests, actually the land sector would be emitting CO2 to the atmosphere. We would have net emissions. Now, when it comes to the targets of the EU, we may not agree with them, but also EU sees forest as an important resource for raw material to phase out fossil fuels in the energy sector, but also to replace plastic, for example, with paper, to replace concrete steel with wood in construction. So, like, forest and wood resources are important in many different aspects of the European Green Deal. What do I do to go to the next one? Okay, let's do it like go. Yeah, go. Okay. This graph we also have seen already many times. It shows the depletion of the forest carbon sink in the EU. Basically, over the last 12 years, we've lost 40% of it. And this is only one of the things that are showing us that the state of the European forests are in is not good. 3% of the old growth forests. I know that this number differs, like I heard in the different presentations, from below 1% to 3%, but let's say that we have few remaining old growth forests. Most of the forests are even aged, and most of them are, like, maybe not most of them, 1/3 of them are single species. This is what we know, maybe a little bit more about the forests that are not Natura 2000 forest habitats. The knowledge of them is quite limited, but this at least indicates more or less their state. When it comes to the Natura 2000 habitats, only 14% of the habitats types are in favorable conservation status. And only half of them, a little bit below half of them, now we are speaking of the area, not habitat types, are in good condition, remaining unknown or bad condition. Yeah, we've heard also about wildfires, droughts, insect outbreaks, wind throws. In general, our forests are under strong pressure and their state is not good. One of the important factors that are putting pressure on the European forests is forest management and the intensification of wood harvests. I don't think that there is a big controversy here in this room about it, but I think it's important also to mention it. In the 20s of the 21st century, we are extracting 150 million cubic meters of wood more than in 90s. This is a huge amount. It's like more or less 3.5 times more than we extract in Poland. A huge economic pressure on the European forests. According to the European Environmental Agency data, which is aggregated from the reports on the progress on the implementation of the Habitats Directive, forestry is the main threat to the protected Natura 2000 forest habitats. So it's not only us saying this and recognizing this threat, but also European institutions and people in the member states that are making these assessments. Increased wood harvests are also among the major reasons why the carbon sink is being depleted. And it's even now recognized in the EU documents. If you look into the recent 2040 target, EU climate target impact assessment, it's all over there. It's mentioned in many places, the link between increased wood harvest for energy and depletion of carbon sink, yeah, are there. So this is just about the setting the scene. Yeah, forests are important for climate and biodiversity. Their state is not very good, and they are under pressure both from natural disturbances, climate change, but also over-harvesting. Now, EU is trying to respond to these threats. That's why in the EU European Green Deal, we have many different policies that are relevant to the forests. Yeah, I will not list all of them. It would be difficult. I will not list all the targets that are included there. It would be impossible almost in such a short presentation. But we have, for example, LULUCF regulation with a target for 2030. We have to increase our carbon sink significantly. We have the biodiversity strategy. It's not a binding law, but it gives us direction, and there is a political commitment to protect strictly 10% of the EU land, including all old growth and primary forests. And if we already heard about it, if we are thinking of strictly protecting 10% of the land in the EU, big part of it will have to be forests, and more or less 15% of the forest will have to be strictly protected. In Poland, for example, it would have to be 20-25%. We have the target of 30% of the forests of the EU land under some kind of protection, not necessarily strict. This will also include many forests. We have nature restoration law with many targets that refer to forest. Restoration of Natura 2000 forest habitats with very clear targets for 2030, 2040, 2050. We have targets for re-establishment of Natura 2000 habitats where they disappeared. We have a specific article, Article 12 in Nature Restoration Law, that refers to forests other than Natura 2000 habitats with indicators of forest biodiversity that have to have a positive increasing trend. So again, forests are very important in this piece of legislation. So this is one phase of the European Green Deal. We have some laws that, if implemented well, tend to increase the ecosystem services that the forests are giving us, increasing biodiversity, increasing the capacity of forests to fix carbon. Let's say pro-environmental, more protection-oriented and restoration-oriented. But then we have the other phase of the European Green Deal. We have some policies that most probably will increase the pressure, economic pressure that I was talking about on European forests. We have Renewable Energy Directive. We've said a lot about it. But the important thing, two important things there are that the renewable energy target for the EU increased, and woody biomass is still counted as a renewable energy source. I think it's easy to connect the dots. There is a high probability that we will be meeting this target by burning more wood. So more wood extracted, less carbon in the ecosystems, biodiversity is threatened. We have packaging waste regulation. We are shifting from plastic to paper. Again, we don't know exactly how much more wood will be needed to shift, but I will make a learned guess that a lot. We have new European Bauhaus initiative. We want to replace construction materials with wood. Again, we will need to extract more. We have carbon removal certification framework. We don't know what will be in the new EU bioeconomy strategy, but I'm confident that there will be measures and recommendations that again will increase the demand for wood. Where are we going to take this wood from? I'm not sure. If from the European forests, again, we will be taking carbon from the forest, we will be putting pressure on biodiversity. So, thinking about it, I came to a conclusion that we have many targets. Some of these targets are contradictory. Yeah, some of them protect, some of them extract more. To guide action, to track the progress on these different targets, and in my opinion, what is the most important, to plan well, to try at least to reconcile them, we need good, reliable data, we need timely data, we need data that is unified, and we need to feed this data into long-term planning and start to plan our policies in a knowledge-based way. Toby will probably say also that I forgot about the payment for ecosystem services. This is also an important thing in this aspect. So I will risk the statement that forest monitoring law most probably will help us meeting this target and reconciling these different targets. I'm saying that I will risk because still it's in the process. We really don't know what will be in the monitoring law. We know what is the proposal of the European Commission. Yeah, we don't know even if the European monitoring law, forest monitoring law, will become a binding law. It's still in the process. But I will go pretty briefly through what is proposed now in this law. There are 3 sets of indicators in 3 annexes, and some of them European Commission is responsible for collecting data on these indicators, some of the member states, and some of the member states and the European Commission, and it will be still decided in exactly what way. First, we have Annex 1 indicators. European Commission is responsible for collecting them. We have a couple of pretty, let's say, general indicators like forest area, tree cover, density, forest type. I will not list all of them, but I marked with the green forest connectivity, which is an indicator that is directly linked to fulfillment of the targets that are included in the nature restoration law. So you can see that it links directly, at least in this aspect, to the nature restoration law. What is also important that each of these indicators, at least most of them for now, have clear definitions that until now not always were defined in the same way. We were saying about it, for example, that we don't have a consistent definition of a forest even. Yeah, here we have a clear definition what is a forest, and we will be able to compare these indicators in different countries and also track the changes. All right. As I told you, I will not go deep into the indicators that are not related to bioenergy. That's why, again, just a fast overview. These are the Annex 2 indicators. Member states will be responsible, hopefully, for gathering data on these indicators. I marked with green those that at least I'm aware of targets in other EU legislation that link to these indicators. So as you can see, many important data will be gathered under this article. What will be the most interesting for me in this presentation will be deadwood removal, so the wood harvests, forest biomass for bioenergy, production and trade of wood products. I will tell you in a moment why. But we have indicators like, for example, location of primary and old growth forest. We said a lot about it. Unfortunately, the moment to gather data, to map the location of the old growth forest, the deadline for it is the 1st January 2028. This is, in my opinion, too late. Yeah, so like the law is not perfect. In some places, probably we would like the data faster, maybe more granular, maybe more often. Yeah, but it is there. Okay. Now there is Annex 3. These are indicators for collection of which Commission and Member States will be responsible, will or not, because as I heard from Lina a moment ago, forest industry is fighting hard to basically exclude all these indicators from the law. They want to basically destroy this annex fully. So these are, let's say, still things that are unclear. There are no clear timelines for this. European Commission is to publish implementing acts that will further provide more details on it. Okay, then a very important thing in the forest monitoring law, in my opinion, are long-term integrated plans for forests and for the forest sector. Unfortunately, they are voluntary. In the first versions of the forest monitoring law that were leaked before it was published, these plans were obligatory. Yeah? Unfortunately, now they are voluntary, and this makes me think that there is something important there. Because if the lobbied against them, it means that they must have been afraid. At least I think so. No? Why is it so? These plans were supposed to be based on the data gathered within the framework of forest monitoring law and provide projections for long-term trends in different categories, but also plans of the member states how to meet different targets, and also provide background on the policies that will help them to meet these targets. And now if you remember the slides that I had before with different targets that are often contradictory, maybe if you make such a plan, you would see that actually meeting these targets together is highly difficult or even impossible because they are mutually exclusive. What is the most interesting part of these plans for me is the point 2, forest-based bioeconomy. Yeah, and I will tell in a moment why, showing it on the example of my beautiful country. So a little bit more about the content, how the data will be gathered, hopefully remote sensing, in situ data, sometimes mixture of those two. What is a strength of this law, as I already said, is uniformity of the data and their comparability, at least hopefully. There is also a provision on data quality control. Every year, member states should assess the quality of the data and take remedial actions if needed. Again, I will say in a moment why, in my opinion, it is a very important thing to have such a quality control. The data should be available, should be publicly available. This, in my opinion, is also extremely important. We know it from the Polish context that not always the data that is there is available to the public, and what is the next point is also very important. They should be they should have an open machine readable format. Why? Marta probably will support me here. In Poland, we've encountered situations that we actually enforced or the access to data, but then it was given, for example, on a sheet of paper or in a PDF, while for sure the State Forest had it in Excel files. So it is really important to say it explicitly in what form this data should be given to the public. Okay, now I will go to the thing that I want to focus most on. Why I think that forest monitoring law will be important for bioenergy, for having more information on bioenergy, its impacts, and how it will help us to plan what to do with bioenergy. Okay, you saw one of the indicators under Annex 2 said that member states should gather data on forest biomass for bioenergy. This data should be gathered, divided, broken down into different sectors. Energy producers as their main activity, yeah? Energy plants, basically, yeah? Auto producers, so we have, for example, industrial plants by wood processing industry that are using byproducts for their own needs. They are not selling the energy to the grid. Households, and then other sectors. This is already very important, that this data will be broken down in such a way. But then what is extremely important is relating the data on forest bioenergy to the regulation on the governance of the energy union and climate action. It says very clearly how the data on forest biomass used for bioenergy should be structured. And this data in this structure, broken down into primary biomass, forest-based industry co-products, post-consumer wood, and processed wood-based fuels, yeah, for every category of users, yeah, we will have this information. In some countries, I know that in Finland, for example, this data is available now. That's why Mary was, for example, saying that they admit that they are burning round wood in energy plants. For most countries, we don't have this data, and we are hearing all the time that the energy sector is burning only byproducts that cannot be used for wood processing, that they are burning only secondary biomass. If we get this data, we will be able to see what actually is being burned and to think how to channel this wood, what to do with it. Maybe we can channel them, for example, to the material use, or yeah, probably, or just not to burn it and leave it in the ecosystems. We tried to get this kind of data in Poland, and believe me or not, but Ministry of Environment told us that they didn't even have this data. Yeah, so it's not even that it's not transparently and publicly available, but in some countries, at least, that's what the ministry claims, they don't even know this. So they should, if they want to make plans for bioenergy sector. What is more, we will have less detailed, but data on removals, divided in fuel wood, industrial wood, in coniferous deciduous. We'll have data on production and trade of wood products. We'll have data on dead wood, above ground biomass. Why do I think that it's important? If we want to know what we use the wood for and where it's coming from, or maybe like we need information how much wood we have available, what we are using it currently for, to be able to plan well and to think how to maybe restructure this balance. We were saying that we need to reduce harvest levels to reach LULUCF sector targets. Yes, if we know where exactly in which sectors the wood is used, we are able to at least try to plan it. Then dead wood, above ground biomass, these are proxies for the amount of carbon that is fixed in forest ecosystem. This helps us to see whether the wood processing sector and bioenergy sector are not making it impossible. Their demand for wood is not making it impossible to meet LULUCF targets. Now, I couldn't stop myself from referring a little bit to Poland, because I think this case study will show you why it is really important to have all this data as detailed as possible, with data quality control, good reporting, and in one place. This is the data. This is data from Central Statistical Office of Poland on the use of wood for energy in Poland from 2004 to 2021. You can see that. How does it work? Oh, sorry. Okay, never mind. You can see that magically in. Okay. Okay. Never mind, I will do it with the. Sorry. I think you all see which place I'm speaking of. Now it's kind of obvious. So, if you look at this data, you could think that somehow from 2004, 2017, households in Poland, the blue line is showing how much wood is burned by households in Poland. We're burning more or less the same amount of wood, and then in 2018, it just went up by 10 million cubic meters in 1 year. No, it was not like that. Actually, this graph, if you looked at it in still 2 years ago, would look totally different. It would be flat, more or less the same amount of wood burned by households in Poland. But then, when we were reaching the moment in 2022 that we were supposed as a country to report on fulfilling our the share of renewable energy in our energy mix, our ministry realized that they had to somehow fulfill this target. They were far from it. That's why the methodology was changed, and from 1 week to another, the amount of wood burned by Polish households increased by 10 million cubic meters, and we met the target. This graph shows you the share of renewable energy in Poland. You can see that more or less since we started, we entered to the European Union, it was going up, 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 up. This is the indicative trajectory in the renewable energy directive that shows more or less what we should follow. So we were quite okay. We were doing quite okay. We were above, no? But then, in some moment, we had, let's say, a government that didn't support that much renewable energy. Actually, the share of renewable energy in our energy mix started to go down, and we went below the indicative trajectory. But we had to meet the target. We didn't want to pay the fines. That's why, by creative accounting, we went up, and the data was even, the methodology was changed for a couple of years back, not to make this, maybe this image that we met it just a moment before. So this is what now you can see in the official statistics. But these statistics are based on the surveys that are made by the Central Statistical Office of Poland. Basically, they go to 1,000 houses every 3 years. They ask people what appliances for heating they have at home. They ask them how much wood more or less they are burning. Then they are extrapolating this data to the entire population, and we have an estimation of how much wood is burned. I agree that this is not the most reliable way of assessing how much wood we are burning, but it can show us a trend. If you do it the same way every 3 years, you should notice more or less, no, if the amount of wood burned by households is increasing or decreasing. I looked at the raw data from this service, and actually in the period when we saw this huge increase, the amount of wood burned by households, according to this service, was going down. So something is happening here. I really think that rather this is the case. I'm not speaking about the amounts because they are exaggerated here, yeah? But I'm speaking of a trend, yeah? If we are going down or up. And now this, believe me or not, this is official statistics from the same year of the amount of wood that we used for energy in the same country. Poland. Yeah, all of them published in the same year for the year 2019. You have Central Statistical Office of Poland, a little bit below 25 million cubic meters. But then they changed methodology. So the new methodology is saying above 30, like even close to 40. Then the agency on the energy market published the same year data saying that it was even a little bit more than 40. But then we also filled Joint Wood Energy, how is it called, JWEE, Joint Wood Energy Inquiry, I think, if I'm not wrong, yeah? We filled this, and it was showing that we burn 100 million cubic meters. So I think that we have some problem in Poland with gathering, reconciling data. I will risk saying that depending on the target that we want to meet, we report different data. And I'm saying it based also on looking in the reports to UNFCCC, for example. Yeah. Yeah. Then when it comes to planning, I think also it was not our strongest side. We had the National Energy Climate Plan. It has been already updated, but times that I'm speaking about this reporting, it was done then. National Energy and Climate Plan was saying that we will increase the production of solid biomass by 56% in 15 years. Most of the solid biomass in Poland that is burned for energy use is wood. More than 80%, almost 90%, 86%, if I'm not wrong, if I remember well. But then we had also National Forestry Accounting Plan, in which we should show the trajectory how we will be meeting the LULUCF target. So there we said that in 2025, next year from now, we will not burn wood for energy at all. Yeah? So what is true? Then I made an exercise also to check if all of it is possible. Yeah? So there is a very good methodology published by the European Commission to make wood resources balances. You basically take the data on the production of different categories of wood products. You look how much was imported, exported, what are the removals, how much post-consumer wood can be used, what are the byproducts. Yeah, there are good conversion factors, and you can estimate how much wood you need to produce the plywood, other types of materials. And then you have the data for energy production. You compare it with the removals and other sources, for example, the wood that is imported or the byproducts, and you can see more or less what is the balance. After we introduce the new methodology of estimating how much wood we are burning, we have an imbalance of 10 million cubic meters. So like the uses of biomass are higher by 10 million cubic meters than sources. This is like almost 20% of the wood that we have available in Poland. So I think there is some problem there. But we are not the only problem. If you look at the EU level, the most recent wood resources balances for the EU were published for 2017. We have an imbalance of 100 million cubic meters in total. Yeah? I really think that it's a systemic problem. And again, I will say that I will risk a statement that if we have good forest monitoring law, at least in these bioenergy aspects and the aspects of use of wood resources, it will help us to solve this problem and plan better for the forest bioenergy sector.
Okay, so is this your last slide?
Yes, that's last slide. I think this is a summary. I've said everything, so yeah,
Perfect.
that's it. Yeah.